tried to keep a toddler entertained on a plane for 3 hours straight? Yeah. Welcome to the elite club of airborne dads. On today's episode of Dads to the Future, we're diving into what it's really like to travel with young ones. And trust us, it's not all snacks and window seats. From diaper blowouts at 30,000 feet to suitcase standoffs in the terminal, we've been there.
Yeah, and we're sharing our battle scars, our wins, and the hacks that we wish someone had told us before we ever booked that first flight.
Yeah. Welcome to Dads to the Future. Mr.
Welcome.
Shoff, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, I'm still, believe it or not, I've had like a sinus infection for I think 12 years now.
Whoa.
So yeah, I'm going for the record.
Hey.
I got a cough drop in, so if our audience gets any coughs or if they can smell how my breath smells so good from this peppermint cough drop, you just know that's what's going on. So I'm just giving you the heads up. But otherwise, I'm doing well. How are you, Vactor?
I'm doing excellent. I'm tired. I'm shifting job schedules, so I'm in the transitionary period of switching my hours. So I'm a little bit tired, but I'm excited to talk to my favorite dad outside my own dad, Mr. Shoff. So, Shoff, you recently had a travel experience, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on what is the Shoff routine when you're traveling with your daughters?
So, you know, I've got a soon-to-be 5-year-old, and I've got a just freshly minted 3-year-old. And yeah, so a second three-nager, just what we need. But it's the first time that they've both been traveling with us. So my eldest, she just got back maybe a month ago, maybe less, from a trip with her mom to England, which was amazing. Because like,
Dang.
We're talking, how long was that flight? Maybe like 9 hours, I think, something like that.
Dang.
And she did amazing. Her name's Emily, by the way, for our listeners that don't already know. But anyway, so Emily she was exceptional. She was a little traveler. She had her own suitcase. She was pulling it around, wheeling it through the airport, through the terminal. She knows the whole process. She's good with like peeing on planes and stuff. And she's, got plenty of stuff to keep herself entertained, which was great. So she's a lot more seasoned a traveler. Whereas Sage, who is 3 years old, just hasn't had as much experience with that. The last time she was on a plane, we were moving to Washington, and she was 4 months old. Dang. So, like, it was very different. And she was being held the entire time, and she slept through most of the flight. So we weren't really sure what we were walking into with her, but she had her own suitcase just like Emily. And it is the cutest thing to witness a little 3-year-old, and she's tiny. She's in like the 1 percentile for height for her age. So imagine like the shortest, cutest little kid in the airport dragging her own suitcase. And she was wearing like a dress, like a nice flowy, like frilly dress. It was the cutest thing. I took a lot of pictures, but yeah, so we took a trip back to Arizona to visit my parents, their grandparents, and it was their first time getting a chance to do that, and their first chance getting to meet my brother, their uncle, their aunt, their cousins, and it was awesome. But after having that trip, I was talking to you, and I was like, man, we got to talk about this on the podcast, because holy hell, traveling with little ones is wild. And I know that you took a trip semi-recently with your son, right?
Yes, he's been on 2 planes in his life. And
okay.
Both of them were when we were visiting my parents in Texas. And it is such a different experience traveling by yourself versus traveling with other people that you have to take care of. Because my parents were in the Air Force, so I was moving every 18 months. I mean,
oh, wow.
I was on a plane like 3 times a year. And I just got used to it, the airports, the packing, all of those things. But when I became a dad, and I traveled with my wife. Then when my son was born, traveling with him, having to get him prepared, having to make sure he's okay, having to make sure he has entertainment and everything, a completely different animal. And the first time was kind of similar to you, where he was too young. It was like, I want to say 6 months or less than a year. So that trip was, half of it was okay, half of it was not, because he slept for half of it, and then the other half, he didn't have his own seat. So my wife had to hold him the whole time. And when he was asleep, it was great. But when he was awake, He was screaming. You know, he wasn't like comfortable. Like,
squirming a
where
lot,
am I?
too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like very uncomfortable just because I already felt cramped on the plane, but then he's next to me and then he's screaming in my ear and I'm trying to make sure he's okay, make sure the other passengers are okay.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Because
not
you're that
to
person.
disturb
You know,
them.
like you're the person that like when you're traveling alone, you hope you don't end up sitting next to or near
Yes,
like a little
yes.
baby, right?
Right.
Who's screaming the entire flight.
Yeah.
And then when
Somebody-
you become that person, oh my gosh, it's tough. Yeah.
Or like the kids who are kicking your seat and you're
Yes.
like, man, would they stop? But yeah, so that was the first time. It was luckily Arizona, where I live, to Texas. I want to say it's like a 2-hour flight, so it's not
Okay.
bad. And going there and coming back, the second time he was a little older. I want to say he was 3 the second time, so he's a little bit more cognizant. He understood that one. Going there, he just had some cars and some trucks and stuff. Coming back, my mom gave him her iPad.
Okay.
So he was using that on the way back. So he was pretty entertained, and it wasn't a bad flight on the way back. So those were my 2 instances. It was kind of very, very young and then a little bit older. So
I feel like having a like a fully stacked backpack of activities and or snacks is
Yes.
like absolutely imperative. You have got to do this. If you do not do this, you are securing a very uncomfortable trip for yourself and for your kid. Because I was thinking about this. My daughter Emily really struggles with car rides, like being in the car for even 30 minutes. She gets like squirmy and she's kind of whiny, and she'll be like, "Are we there yet? I want to get out," and but yet she can do a 9-hour flight on a plane, no problem. And I'm thinking, what is the difference here? What, you're in a car, you're on a plane. Like, to me, a plane feels more claustrophobic than a car does, but that's because I'm aware of the fact that outside of the plane is we're in the sky, like there's nothing else there. But I think for a kid, especially a kid in a car seat, that probably does feel more confining because you're being pressed against your seat, especially if it's the kind of harness where it's going to be like the cross harness. And then, your parents can't really entertain you because they're focused forward on, driving and everything like that. I'm constantly telling my kids, like, I can't turn around right now. I'm focused on the road. If I turn around, I might smack into a tree. Yeah. So, or another car or a person. So, they're getting their understanding of that. But I was thinking, like, a car ride seems to me like the road trip is the far worse option. If you are traveling with a little one, road trip has got to suck way more than a flight.
yeah, I never thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense. And I think not having the windows in the plane, like let's say if you're in the center, it feels more like a room, I think, to them, rather than a car where they're looking out the window and they're seeing the everything passing by them. I wonder if that also plays into it. But I think, like you said, the constraint of the car seat definitely is probably a big thing. We haven't done a road trip with him yet, but we're thinking about it coming up. His first Disney trip. So that's about a 5-hour road trip. So we'll see. I'll report back.
Well, if you take your
this-
Tesla, then at least you've got the autopilot or whatever they
Yes.
call it.
That takes a lot of stress off, keeping you in the lane, making sure like it's staying at the same consistent speed, the cruise control, auto cruise control, and all that.
Yeah.
So that actually is a big win. But I'm very interested. I'm also like you. Hey, I can't turn around right now. Daddy doesn't want to crash. We want to get to where we're going. So,
and then the
I
other
wanna
thing
see
is
how
like,
that is.
Us as adults, we can hold it in terms of our like our pee, whatever, like much longer than a kid can. So that's another aspect to consider. Like road trips, there's going to be lots of stops and starts, and that just makes the trip take so much longer to get to your destination. Whereas on a plane, you've got the ability, the plane is going to be flying no matter what. You can go take a bathroom break. It's not going to stop the plane from moving along. And that was something like for me personally, if I'm traveling alone, I almost never go to the bathroom on the plane. Even if I have to go, I don't want to get out of my seat. I don't want to like have to deal with the person next to me and having to climb over them. It's inconvenient. I'm a bigger guy. I don't want to brush. Like I hate even brushing my arm against somebody, So I usually will just suffer through it, or I'll be smart and I'll go before the flight takes off. But with sitting next to essentially a 5-year-old who is for the most part, potty trained at this point. She knows when she has to go and she lets you know, but she doesn't have a huge window before she's going to be peeing herself. So it's like, got to get your butt to the bathroom. And so there were, I want to say 2 or 3 times on the flight back from Arizona to Washington where she had me up and we had to let the person next to me know she had to go to the bathroom. We had to go to the back of the plane. She timed it at the absolute worst time because they were doing beverage service, you know?
Ooh,
and so
yeah.
She got caught in the middle of the carts. And then after she was done, we still had to wait for all the cart service to pass through because there was no way she was going to get back to her seat. And she was getting a little impatient and didn't understand the process. But the cool thing was she got to see a lot of what the flight attendants do in that back room, which is something that most people don't get to hang around and watch people do. So she got kind of a cool perspective. They gave her those little Delta wings. Little pin that they put on stuff, so she liked that. That was a lot of fun. But what kind of activities do you bring for your son on a trip? Like, what's the stuff that really engages him?
Cars was during the period that he was traveling those 2 times on the plane, he was very much into cars. Now he's more into snakes right now. That's the big thing for him is
he's bringing snakes.
He loves anytime a snake.
I've had it with these mother trucking snakes on this mother trucking plane.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we fly during his snake phase because I don't think this is going to be a lasting one for him. But yeah, it's usually just whatever he's into at the time. Like I said, he was big into cars and trucks during those 2 flights. But this one, if we were to take it today, I think snakes would be the big ones.
Well, and
whatever
you said
he's into.
iPad usage, like whatever he's watching. And, you know, a lot of planes will have the screen on the back of the seat, right? Does he, when he's watching something, does he stay really, like, focused and engaged? Or if he's watching something, is it kind of more, it's there, but he's not totally focused on it? Like, I'm always curious about that because my kids one of them stays really engaged, the other one does not.
His attention span is very short right now, so he will stay engaged for about maybe 5 minutes on a YouTube video. If it's a movie, it's about 15 minutes, and then he wants to watch something else. So he stays engaged for a little period of time, and then he's kind of all over the place. But that's usually his viewing patterns at this time.
He just turned 4, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Memories of 4 that kind of stand out to you, or was that year just kind of a blur for you?
In terms of traveling? Yeah, you know, I would say that she's only recently, she is 4 now, but she'll be 5 in July. So I kind of look to her as essentially almost being a 5-year-old. She's pretty much past like the feeling of being 4. But she's been great. Honestly, the age of 4, in just a general sense, she's come a long way. She's much more nurturing to her little sister than she ever was before. She's really accepted like her role in that, which is fun and very cute to watch. She likes to be independent. And she's good at it. Like, so I would say what you're entering, because I know he just recently turned 4 not too long ago.
Yeah.
What you're entering with him is going to be a great year. I can just predict it's going to be a great year.
It is funny how I just associated him with being 4, and then I just now thought about it. He's only been 4 for a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like thinking, oh, he's a veteran of 4. Yeah, that is interesting. But yeah, I really think, like you said, it's kind of a pro tip. If you can just keep them engaged, whatever it is, whether it's crayons, coloring, that's kind of the thing when we go out to a restaurant and they have the crayons and on the menu. If you could just keep them engaged and their mind occupied, I think it just makes everything easier, smoother for them and for you.
I will say one of the things I was very concerned about doing is, even though I'm no longer married, for those that don't know, but in the circumstances of my arrangement, we're very effective co-parents, myself and my ex-wife. We traveled together for this trip, which may be weird for some people, but for us, it was perfectly fine. We're still very good friends. We work really well together as a team in terms of parenting the girls. And she had reasons to be in Arizona, just like I had reasons to visit my family in Arizona. So the girls primarily stayed with me while we were in town, but having her with me for the trip was monumental. Because doing that solo, if it was just me and the 2 girls at their ages right now, it would have been a lot. And honestly, probably I would have lost my mind. Because it's just their ages, they're so different. And until Sage gets to where Emily is now, I think that it's going to be tough. So like, I think like within the next 2 years, Sage will be at where Emily is now. And I think that is going to be a perfect time to be traveling with them, maybe without my ex-wife's help in that regard. I can take one of them, no problem, but taking them both is a lot, especially when you've got like car seats to contend with and all the other stuff too.
Man, I can't even imagine that. The backpacks, the car seats, the suitcases,
The
everything.
stuffies that are not in the backpacks or the suitcases that they're carrying around with them, but they don't really want to carry around. So then you end up having to carry them around. Yes. And then the water bottle. It's like the amount of bags I had strapped. Like I've got my backpack on. I've got this laptop bag. I've got their backpack. And then I had stuffies like sort of just like lodged into various like armpits. It was quite a sight. I looked like one of those like one-man bands.
Oh, yes.
But all in all, I mean, it was a great trip. There was a moment, though, that really stood out to me. So we were heading back. And by the way, on the way there to Arizona, there was a lot of seat transferring. So it was myself and Emily in one seat, and then the row behind us, it was my ex-wife, Sarah, and Sage. And Emily and Sage kept climbing over the seats and like switching spots, which I did not love. I'm going to say I did not love that, because like seeing a kid climbing over the seat is kind of like, I think it's in bad taste, like in terms of like being in a public space like that. But they needed to move around. They needed to be with the other parent every now and again, kind of change it up. The flight back, they stayed put. They didn't switch seats. Emily was with me the whole time, and she was watching something on hers. I think she was watching like Frozen or Frozen 2 or something on her screen, and I decided to put on a movie because she seemed pretty content. She seemed like she was in good shape. She was coloring. I had slime for her. It was like a putty that she loves playing with, like sensory stuff. So she had slime. She had stuff to color with. She had my iPad, but she was watching Frozen 2, and I decided to put on Back to the Future 2. And I usually I'll watch something on the screen if I'm by myself. Normally, if I'm traveling with a kid, I don't even give myself that luxury. I'm like, I'm not going to bring my Switch. There's no chance I'm going to get to play that. I'm not going to pick out my laptop. I'm not going to get out a book. I'm not going to do anything for me. I'm going to raw dog this for my daughter to make sure I'm like attentive to whatever she needs. But she seemed in good shape, so I was like, I'm going to go ahead and watch Back to the Future Part 2. I haven't seen it in a while. I love that movie. Certainly it inspired our podcast name, Dads to the Future. So I put it on, and I swear it was one of the most amazing experiences. I turned it on, and we were taxiing to the runway for liftoff, and just as the DeLorean lifted off the street at the beginning of part 2, where he's like, roads, where we're going, we don't need roads, that whole part, the plane lifts off just as the tires lift off there. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It was like life and art had synchronized. It was so amazing. It blew my mind. The whole time I was smiling like ear to ear, like nobody knew what the heck I was smiling about. I probably looked like an idiot, but I was like the happiest I could be that had transpired. But then it gets to the part where Marty is in the future and he's on a hoverboard, and that whole chase scene. Yeah. Keep it. I got a pit bull now. You don't have to work on water unless you've got power. So I look off to the side to see what Emily's doing, and she's got her eyes on my screen, and she's watching this hoverboard scene, and I was like, oh, am I like, because as a dad, the things that have like Back to the Future is one of my absolute most favorite film franchises of all time. Back to the Future Part 2 especially is probably one of my top 3 or top 5 movies of all time. And to witness my child having a very positive reaction to a scene from it, and this is the first she's seen of it, because I've never like sat her down and said, time to watch Back to the Future. I think you're of age. Like, I don't think she's ready for it. But she was watching that scene, and she was not blinking. She was so into it. It was so fun witnessing her reaction and seeing her eyes light up at the idea of like the hoverboard. And I could just like see that she wished like she could have one of those. And I remember talking to her after. I was like, remember that scene? Weren't those cool? She's like, yeah, you were floating. I was like, yeah, when I was a kid, I would have done anything for a hoverboard. I still would do anything for a hoverboard. She's like, I want one too. Yeah. So it was really, really cool. and a
Nice.
fun moment to share with her and see that from her. And I'm not gonna lie, I started to tear up a little bit. It made me a little misty eyed. There was some dust in the air. I could feel Niagara Falls was about to happen. Yeah, it was such a sweet moment. And for a movie that had such a profound impact on me, I can't describe it, but it was something special. And I was so glad to get to experience that with her. She didn't watch anything more beyond that, but just seeing her reaction was so cool.
Yeah, that is fun. Anytime my son takes an interest in something that has meant a lot to me, it's always like, oh yeah, maybe he's gonna like this. But then, like I said, 15 minutes later, he's running. All right, I'm time to run away now. I'm gonna go do something else. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what he falls in. What he starts to like in his progression. But yeah, I think, like I said, the biggest thing that I gained from traveling with him was the first time he was real too young to do anything. Like I said, he was asleep most of the time. But the second time, it was like, oh man, I really have to come into this with a game plan. I have to be prepared, having all the snacks ready, kind of anticipating anything that he's going to ask you or he's going to want to do. Have that ready in a backpack.
Yep.
Have everything in a Ziploc bag. All the things ready. My wife was really good about preparing a lot of that stuff beforehand. I'm more thinking of, okay, how am I going to get the suitcase in the car? Are we going to get to the airport on time? She's preparing that's her main focus. So I think having a good game plan really helped out when we traveled. So that's from now on, that's what I'm always going to be thinking about. Okay, how can I prepare the night before everything and laying everything out? Was there anything that you think you could have did better? Like when you were traveling, is there anything that you said, oh man, next time I'll do it differently?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say one thing that I need to do a better job of is I just generally have travel anxiety, like even for myself. Just like traveling even by myself, I'm always super concerned. Like you were talking about what time we're going to be at the airport, what time we got to get through security, we got this or that. Like I know everything's going to be fine. It's always been fine. I have TSA pre-check. Like we
nice.
blaze through security. Like we have the tools, the tricks to like get us through there faster. But I still, until I get to the gate, I'm on edge. And there's really no reason for it, but it's just kind of like how I operate. And so I think if I were to do it again, knowing that like this trip was a success, the girls did a great job, all things considered. Sage definitely was really, I would say she was pretty irritable on the flight back, but that was kind of, she was next to Sarah, so Sarah was tending to her. And if anybody's going to be good for her when Sage is having a rough time, it's Mama. There is no replacement. There's nothing I could do that would be better than what she could do. So she was in good hands and I didn't worry. But like I would say for myself, finding a way to sort of reduce the anxiety just so that I can enjoy the experience more is probably what I would say to do differently. Other than that, I think I was really well prepared. I had plenty of like sticker books and coloring books and the iPad and lots of snacks and like the putty slime stuff. Yeah, it was enough to fulfill like their attention span for the entirety of like the 3-hour flight. And I still had plenty of stuff on the way back. And yeah, so I would just say I was stocked, and that was the key. That was really the key. Yeah. What about you?
Nice. I think just making sure, like I said, everything is in his grasp. Like, oh, okay, he wants this toy. I need to prepare better next time. I need to make sure he has the right thing that he wants in the right spot. Those are the things that I'm always thinking about as the trip is going on. Man, I wish I had done it this way. I wish I had figured it out a different way. Because I always want to be the most efficient too, not only with him, but with me as well. So those are, I think, the things that I think about are we could have got to the airport a little bit faster. We could have left the house a little bit earlier, those type of things. Because when we went, I'm thinking about a million different things at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was, man, I wish I had gotten to a point where I was comfortable and confident. And then if I know things are prepared ahead of time, I don't have any stress. But it's like,
Yeah.
if I wait till the last minute, then I'm like a chicken with my head cut off. So just, I think next time, what I've learned is give myself an extra hour maybe to say, okay, you thought it was going to be at this time. If you have that extra cushion, then if anything else happens in between, you won't have a problem.
Yeah.
So I think that's my tip to myself. Future Vactor. make sure you
I thought of
get
another one
hour
just now
ahead.
as you were talking.
Right.
So sometimes I remember to do this and sometimes I don't. But in terms of car seats, if you can afford to do it, when you obviously you're going to be securing a car rental in most situations, right? Like if you're traveling or going somewhere else, you're bringing your kids, you're going to need car seats. Sometimes people travel with them or they check them, right? And sometimes they've got booster seats depending on the age of the kid, right? But like if you've got a toddler or somebody who's in like a full size car seat, that's a lot to lug. And that's a lot to even check if you're going to do something like that. If you can afford to, just rent the car seat from the car rental company. Then you don't have to worry about taking it out of your own car at the beginning of your trip, lugging it with you, which is a heavy thing in addition to your suitcases, whatever your kids don't want to hold on to, you know what I mean? So rent the car seat with the car rental is one of my suggestions. And then also take advantage of the carts at the airport. I cannot stress how helpful that is when you have lots of luggage. Don't make it extra hard on yourself. I used the carts when used them a few times. And I know it's like $6-7 for like a cart, unless you can find one that just hasn't been parked, properly back where it's supposed to be, then it's free, right? But if you can get a cart, that will be such a relief, and it will free your hands up considerably. Your kids will be happier because they don't have to carry stuff. Your significant other will be happier because they don't have to carry stuff. It's just like, it's a win-win. So pay the $6-7 for the freaking cart. You're gonna like it. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah. Well, Shoff, traveling with kids is chaotic, but it's also hilarious and sometimes downright stressful. But it's also full of little moments that you'll never forget. Whether it's the first time our little angels are looking out the window or proudly rolling their tiny suitcases through the terminal, these are the memories that we're always going to hold on to.
That's right. And if today's episode helped you laugh or prep for your next big family trip, do us a favor. Share it with a fellow dad. Leave us a review, subscribe, and let us know your go-to tip for traveling with kids.
Oh, yeah. Traveling with little kids isn't easy, but like time travel, it's unpredictable, emotional, and totally worth it once you make it back in one piece.
And if we've learned anything, it's to always bring snacks, backup activities, make sure to charge your iPad, and
yes,
make sure you have a sense of humor too.
And actually, bring extra batteries too. That's my other thing. I have so many tech devices, so I always want to bring a different battery every time. So whether you're flying across the country or just trying to survive the airport security line with a toddler, remember,
naps. Where we're going, we don't need naps.
Okay, maybe we do need some naps, but you get the point.
Great Scott. Thanks for listening to Dads to the Future. Safe travels, dads. Safe travels.